Welcome, it's day 34. It's a Friday, almost 9 o'clock. I left Ann Arbor after visiting my brother and sister-in-law. Yesterday we spent time, my brother and I, at a museum related to Henry Ford and his automobiles. So we'll do a quick flashback here, show you highlights of that museum, which I thought was pretty good, in downtown Detroit.
This is the Ford Piquette plant. It has a bunch of Henry Ford's early model Ford automobiles, and it was one of the first places where he produced them. Car's in beautiful shape. Henry Ford's office, 1909. This is an exhibit of an early Ford dealership. I don't know that it would have looked. Henry Ford quadricycle, 4 horsepower. '03 curved dash Oldsmobile. Sold over 19,000 of these. '03 Ford Model 8 So 1903, it was chain driven. You see the next vehicle, it's shaft driven. This is 1 year later, 1904 Model B. And here we are 1 year later, 1904, and there's a shaft driving the vehicle. This is the Model T Touring. The vehicle is Henry Ford famous. Model A. There were 2 Model A's. First Model A was one of Henry's first cars, and this came many years later in the 1930s.
So welcome back again, and we are headed towards Toledo, Ohio. I'm going to cross over the river, make my way into western Ohio, and then heading east. And I have my sights set today in Pennsylvania, and here we go. Day 34. Time once again to say goodbye to Michigan. I am entering the state of Ohio. So I'm over the border of Ohio. The next state is Pennsylvania, and I'm not going to hit that. for at least another 3 hours. So we're going to cross over this cool bridge, and there is the lake freighter that I visited several years ago, the historic lake freighter. There's a tugboat in front of it. There it is. That's a good picture right there. In the museum that I visited with my brother. I am on Interstate 80, Ohio Turnpike, headed east. Look at all those trucks. I am on I-71, Interstate 71, heading into Cleveland. There we are. Corporate limits. Their stadium and their field house. I broke 9,000 miles on this trip. 9,013 miles on this trip. I think there's only one trip I took that was longer than this trip, and that was my Four Corners tour. That almost took 2 months. I have reached the eastern end of Ohio. I am entering into Pennsylvania. Starting to feel like familiar territory. Welcome to Pennsylvania, established 1681. Let freedom ring. Nice entrance to the state. I like that. I am making such good time that I'm going to head further east today. Sizerville State Park, but the GPS is taking me up into New York, which is going to skirt along the northern side of Pennsylvania and then bring me back down into Pennsylvania again. So I'm on Interstate 86 headed east. The Sizerville State Park has some walking camp sites. It's a small state park in Pennsylvania. It looks like there's still a few that are available. I don't believe I've ever been on this Interstate 86, east or west, out here in western New York. It's actually quite nice. Got off the expressway, went through the little town of Olean, and I am headed south right now. We'll be in Pennsylvania shortly. First Pennsylvania, then New York, back into Pennsylvania. Welcome to Pennsylvania. This is the Northeast that I remember. None of those great vast plains of the Midwest, searing heat of the desert in California, windy roads, trees, beautiful forest land, swamps and lakes. Nice. Feels like I'm getting close to home. Downtown Port Allegheny. Looks like a nice little community. Just entered the Elk State Forest here in Pennsylvania. Got 6 miles to go. I have arrived. Sizerville State Park. Just passed by the campground. There were quite a few open sites, so I'm guardedly optimistic. Sites are reservable. Check bulletin board for available sites before setting up.
Camp number 17 at Sizerville State Park here in Pennsylvania. $40 a night. Well, at least the showers are free. Time for dinner. I'm going to eat dinner since I have some fish that used to be warm before I set up camp. Alright, for dinner I have a piece of haddock, which used to be hot. I don't know whether it is or not anymore, even mildly warm, but we'll find out. Cranberry walnut salad, sweet tea. You hear the traffic behind me because I'm right next to a busy road. Last site available over on this side of the camp. Banana. And my sister-in-law made a great dessert for me on my visit. And it is a brownie with all kinds of chocolate chips on the top. So that should be really good for dessert with some milk. So this could have spelled disaster tonight. I was putting up the tent and one of the temples shattered. I've had trouble with the temples before, back on my Four Corners tour, so I actually ordered a replacement set and used some of the spares that I had left over to carry with me for emergency purposes. So I still have 3 left. I used one of the 4 that I had, And the tent is back up.
Good morning, it's day 35, the end of week 5. It's a Saturday, 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm headed east. Things packed up, ready to go. It's a little chilly this morning, so I have my electric wire set up for my electric jacket. So I'm gonna get on the bike, get myself settled in, and we are underway. Day 35. Very damp morning. Skies are clear, it's just there's a lot of humidity in the air, going through banks of fog. My tent was soaked this morning from the dew. It's only 45 degrees Fahrenheit this morning, a little after 8 o'clock. I had no mobile phone connection last night, so I was communicating with my wife via satellite, which is nice to have. Get a certain number of free messages sent or received over the course of a month, included with the subscription, and really pays off for a camp like that in terms of being able to keep in communication. So I've got 347 miles to go today, almost 6 hours. I am headed home. So if everything goes well, this will be the last day of the trip, which is 5 full weeks of travel. Nice ride here. The GPS is eventually going to put me onto an interstate, but I've got about 70 miles of this kind of riding. It's not a bad way to start the day. Still a little chilly. First rays of sunshine peeking through. Leaves are changing for fall here in Pennsylvania. A pretty morning. Pretty ride. The sun beats back the clouds. Look at that. Very pretty. Well, it's going to be pretty much interstate from here on. I stick to the plan. It's 10 o'clock, 4 hours of riding, 261 miles. I am headed east. Susquehanna River, all the way down to Maryland. Back in familiar territory. Hudson River. Weather has been absolutely gorgeous today. I have really lucked out on this trip with weather. I am closing in on the Connecticut border. It's a little reflection about this trip. 35 days, 5 weeks. Spent probably 28, 29 days in a tent. 3 or 4 motels, a couple nights with my brother and his wife at their house. When it's all said and done, 9,555 some miles. Putting aside the National Historical Parks that I visited, just focusing in on the national parks, 16 of them over the last 35 days. 16 national parks. Hot Springs, Big Bend, Guadalupe Mountains, Carlsbad Caverns, Petrified Forest, Grand Canyon, Channel Islands, Yosemite, Kings Canyon, Sequoia, Death Valley, Zion, Bryce Canyon, Arches, Wind Cave, and Rocky Mountain National Park. I believe that's 16 in total. It's been a great experience. It's clearly one of the top trips that I've taken personally. Where I'm going next. Appreciate your watching. Take a shot here when I get home into the exact mileage that I took. Can't believe the weather's been as good as it's been. I mean, I had some hot days. I think the lowest temperature was like 35 degrees Fahrenheit during the trip. The hottest was 105. So a 70-degree Fahrenheit swing between the lowest and the highest temperature that I experienced. And the hot days were uncomfortable, there's no doubt about it, but the rain was so minimal that I don't think I'll ever take a trip again where I go 35 days and only had 15 minutes of rain. Very fortunate in that regard. 3 oil changes on this trip, including one that had a filter change. Replaced the rear tire all the way out in California, Thousand Oaks. So all kinds of things other than the national park that I enjoyed, aside from the state parks, national forests that I stayed in, the BLM property that I stayed on. So here we go, into Connecticut. Thanks again. This is Paul Zig. Glad you joined me.